On today's episode, I get to talk to the fascinating Eileen Mckusick, who is a researcher, writer, inventor, practitioner, educator, and speaker in the fields of therapeutic sound, the human biofield, and electric health. She has an MA in integrative education and has been studying the effects of sound on the human body and its electrical system since 1996. Eileen is the originator of the sound therapy method Biofield tuning and the founder of the Biofield Tuning Institute, which conducts peer-reviewed studies on the human biofield. She is the author of best-selling books Tuning the Human Biofield and Electric Body, Electric Health. In this conversation with the incredible 2-4 emotional generator, Eileen and I dive into the human biofield. And I think it's fascinating because her work really talks to the aura, which obviously we talk about. And she did share with me before we hit record, and we do talk about it a little bit in the interview, about how much they use human design in the business. And I would be so curious to do research around this tuning of the biofield and how it differs from type to type and definition in centers, because I really think, she talks a lot about the chakras, and when we kind of lay or overlay human design, I think there could be such a fascinating story in there. But ultimately, biofield tuning is all about bringing your body back into harmony, into resonance, into the the harmonious frequency. Maybe that's the original frequency that I always talk about. So enjoy this incredible right angle cross of the Maya. Just remembered I wanted to share that too. And Eileen Mckusick talking all about the human biofield and how she's created this incredible thing called biofield tuning. Enjoy the episode. Hey, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. Now, my guest on today's episode is someone that I have been kind of following her work from a distance for many years because it fascinates me. And it was actually a year ago, or just over a year ago, that I was in Austin, Texas, and on a particular podcast where the host, Alex Zeck, and I started talking about this guest and all of her work and how it is so completely linked to human design. So I feel like we've been waiting a long time for this conversation. So Eileen Mckusick, welcome to the podcast.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Emma.
I'm super excited to have you here. I feel like your work is so fascinating, especially when we look at it through the frame of human design, which we'll get to. But before we do that, I always love to ask about the journey. I often ask our hosts to, at least our guests, to start at potentially like the dark night of the soul, because I like to think of that as often our invitation into our purpose. We kind of go screaming and trying to resist it, but as we go into the fire, we kind of realize that there's this invitation to become this more aligned, more in love with life, more purposeful version of ourselves. So I'd love to hear that journey from potentially your darker night of the soul, if you in fact had one, to being the version of you that's sitting with me today.
That's a great question, because it really is that journey, right, that brings us here in this moment talking about healing. A few came to mind, honestly, like turning points. One was when I was 18, I was bulimic. I became bulimic when I was 17, and when I was 18, I tried to stop, and I couldn't. And it was this experience of meeting myself as an addict whose conscious mind was disconnected from their subconscious mind. And I was being driven by this subconscious self-destructive behavior that I had no control over. And that was very alarming, right? I think anybody who's ever found themselves addicted to anything, who's wanted to do something but self-sabotage themselves over and over again, it's very consternating. And so I really set out to find the root of this behavior and heal myself. And I had no idea how deep the root was, very, very, very deep, and connected to all kinds of personal trauma, family dysfunction, cultural dysfunction, many layers. And I'm still on that journey of excavating the truly whole, authentic self that got fractured and buried in my early journey through life. And I think all of us really who end up on the healing path, if you will, went through some pretty hard times. And honestly, some of the best healers I know are the ones when you hear their story, you're like, whoa,
Yeah,
right?
I so agree.
Yeah. And then they're making it, you know, they're sitting in front of you as a coherent being. And you're like, well, whatever you're doing, I'm really curious about because,
Yeah.
you know, you clearly have resolved a lot of this. And I think that's what I think we're all looking, whether we realize it or not, for our own greatest potential as a human being. And it's
Mm,
kind of like a scavenger hunt, you know, of pieces of self and reflections of self and different kinds of healing and people witnessing us and seeing us for who we really are deep down, you know, how brilliant we all really are. And then believing, you know, I think we all know that deep down we have this amazing potential as human beings, but we don't believe it. And
so
so,
true.
yeah. So for me, it's been a journey of coming to believe in myself and being able to do that through as a practitioner facilitating people into that place, you know, the helping them to digest those wounds, those dark nights, and alchemize that heavy energy that's in their spirit, that's in their field, and turn it back into light and back into aliveness, that sort of reclamation of self after going through the fire, after going through the dark night. Yeah.
Mm. Oh, I love that. I love that so much. And let's talk a bit about the work that you do in the world now, because you work with the Biofield. And one of the things I love when I'm listening to you is how you simply bring us back to the basic fact that we are electricity. It's all about this electricity in the body. So, and the sound frequency. And I have this whole new, and I mean, I've been working and studying this area, at least frequency, through quantum physics and neuroscience and all of these different areas for so long, just as a, you know, just for myself, my own journey, I think, and then I end up helping others. But I think what I love about your work is that you really bring it back to, look, at the end of the day, these are the simple facts that we are an energetic body. And then once we understand that there is this frequency that's always going on and it's giving us feedback, it's literally telling us what's going on and it's helping us to come back into coherence. And it's so simple yet so powerful. So, can we talk about the work that you do and how you've actually created your own modality in that area?
Hmm. Well, so I work with both tuning forks and voice. So I'm a sound therapist. When I speak with people, I listen carefully to the tone of their voice, to the words that they use, to the fact that what we really are is a collection of vibrations in a bag of water. You know, a little
I
bit of
love it. Yep.
mud and rocks in there. And that is what it is, the difference between being alive and being dead, right? You have electric vibrational energy moving through you. That's you being alive. And when you die, your light goes out and then there's no more movement. And so we are fundamentally our electrical system. And I just simplify things. I say your biofield is your body's electrical system. It's the electrical current that runs through you. And this incorporates the electricity that we understand in a Western mindset, but also the higher octaves and more subtle aspects of that that are maybe referred to as chi or ki. It's the same thing. Chi is electricity. It's electric light. And that is what keeps us alive. It beats our heart. It makes our brain waves move. It carries charge in our blood, in our bones, in our fascia, our connective tissue. And anything that has electric current running through it has a magnetic field around it. And that's our aura. That's
Yeah.
our energy field. It's like science we learned in grade school. It's like everybody's been sort of under this spell, that hasn't allowed them to see what's like right in front of their face and how normal and natural and how it fits in with all these other scientific models that we already understand.
Mhm.
So we are electric and we are vibrational. We're
Mm.
packets of vibrating light. And our vibrational output, if you will, is all a consequence mostly of our inputs. And so if we've had a lot of bad and difficult inputs, then our body's going to be challenged to output coherently, right? I always say that we're like beautiful, magnificent Stradivariuses that have been terribly mishandled.
Mm.
And we're just out of tune. And that our fundamental settings in all of us are for harmony, but we all popped out here into the time space continuum in a place that's downstream of a lot of trauma and a lot of chaos. And our parents' generation didn't have the minds or the means to do anything about it. So there's a whole generation of people here now that are cleaning up the mess. I call us the karmic cleanup crew. And they're
Yeah.
people who are intent on bringing greater order and coherence to themselves and the world around them, doing what our parents couldn't do.
That's so beautifully said. And it's so true. I feel, my own personal experience, my mum was a narcissist. And of course, I've, gone on to experience narcissistic relationships. And there is this part of me that although I understand narcissism and that these people aren't going to change and all of those things, there's also this big part of my heart, and of course there is, because this is just as much my dysfunction as my function, is that like I feel for them because it's this deep shame that they're carrying around. And my mum, like, I'm sure she brought it in from generations. She was Scottish. She was, she carried a lot of kind of lineage shame. So, yeah, we are definitely the cleanup crew. I love that, the cleanup crew. And I have to geek out on something you said from a human design perspective because, you said you listen very clearly, carefully, you listen to the frequency of people's voices and you have an undefined throat. And it's one of the things that I always say to people about having an undefined throat. Like, because often people, all they hear is, well, I have to wait to respond. People don't listen to me. They don't hear me. I'm like, no, 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 no. Your superpower is to hear the things that aren't being said, to hear all the different frequencies. So just to hear you say that, I'm like, there it is right there. She's speaking her human design. I love it. So let's talk about how you tune the body. I was again listening to the podcast you did with Alec last year, and you were kind of going through the chakras, which I think is fascinating, obviously from a human design perspective. And for me personally, you were just talking about how you'd mapped the auric field, how they were like, there were certain statements that you created, stabilizing statements for each part of the body or each chakra. And it blew my mind because you started at the feet, and literally I broke a toe before Christmas, and then I did it again about, I'm going to say, a month ago, and I've never broken a toes ever before in my life. And then I hurt my right knee, and you were talking about it. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm a person who never hurts herself. All these things were going on. So I would love to talk about the body, how this shows up, and then how you actually use frequency to realign the resonance of the body.
Okay, well, I've created 3 different systems. The first system and map. Each system has a map. So the first system I created is Biofield tuning, and that works with the Biofield anatomy map. But basically, what I discovered after bouncing sound off the body and the atmosphere around their body, kind of like sonar or LiDAR or radar or ultrasound or echolocation, right? It's all the same thing. It's sending out a sound signal and then getting information on the ping back. And so what that allowed me to do was discover that the biofield, the aura, the human energy field, has a specific anatomy and physiology that's the same from person to person. It has all these different features, and it's timelined, it holds your memories, it's sort of stratified, and different emotional memories are stored in different areas. And when we go out of balance mentally or emotionally in a certain thing, right, as you discovered, kind of looking at the statements map, that we tend to take that part of our body with us. So the right knee relates to being blocked moving forward. And if you're feeling like you're bumping up against this, whether it's an external force or whether it's your own self sabotage, there's this feeling of like not being able to move forward and a kind of frustration around that. People who end up with right knee issues, it's always like, yes, that is exactly what is going on.
Oh my God, it was spot on for me, like spot on. I'm like, that is crazy.
Yeah. And it's like that with every body part, right? So this is what I discovered. It's like, oh, that when we go imbalanced in this particular way, right? And so that's the essence of that map. And it shows you all of the imbalances on the right and left side, the feet, the knees, and the 7 major energy centers. Uh, the stabilizing statements is sort of a continuation of that work, but it's simpler, it's more elegant, and it speaks to the balanced aspect of each of these areas. So this is the imbalance, but when there's a right side that, like, when this statement is true, it sort of shores me up on this side. And when this statement is true, it shores me up on this side. And what it does is the whole system of 25 statements enables it, like rewires your system so that you stay upright in your central channel, right? Did you ever have a parent tell you to straighten up and fly right? Right?
Yeah, yeah, all the time.
That's what this does. It gets you to like straighten up and fly right. And it's so simple. And what's interesting is that like each statement, like let's just say, did you say it was your left foot that you
Yeah,
broke your
first my left foot, then my right.
Wow.
Yeah, it went left foot, right foot, then knee. And I can literally pinpoint it to an exact experience I was going through.
Yeah. So the left foot relates to feeling stuck and or like mired in a situation that you don't see how to get out of. And so many of our childhoods were like that, and you're just like, oh, I'm stuck here. What am I going to do? I'm going to like disassociate or go into fantasy or start hurting myself, right? What am I going to do to when I can't get away? And so the statement of the left foot is, I am free. And you just put your mind down there and you think or you say, you're like, I am free. And what will happen is your body, your subconscious mind will instantly tell you all the ways that that statement is not true. Like, oh no, I'm not free in this way and I'm not free in that way. Who am I to be free? Like all of these subconscious stories that you were carrying around that were keeping you stuck. It's the metaphor that I use. It's like having a glass of water that has a little bit of sand in the bottom. And when you pour in more water, it brings the sand up. And so the statements are
Mm,
like the water coming in and it flushes out like all these hidden beliefs and stories and self-limiting blah, blah, blah that are stopping these simple statements from ringing true for you, right?
mm,
There's some ways that you really are free. And the more that you focus on that statement, it's like zooming in on something, right? It's like, I'm free, I'm free. And it starts getting bigger and bigger and ringing more and more true in more and more places in your life.
mm.
So each one has a left, a right, and then a center. And so the right foot is, I am stable, because the story in the right foot is, I don't know what to do. It's like, should I do this or should I do that? I'm afraid I'm doing the wrong thing, right? It's very uncertain and very unstable. And so we tend to end up with right foot issues, problems, injuries, breaking toes when we're in that frame of mind and we're creating a lack of focus in that part of our field. And then
Mm.
because our intelligence isn't coherent in that area, we're much more likely to injure ourselves there.
Mm. It blows my mind because literally my solution to the feeling stuck was trying everything. Like it was straight into the uncertainty. It's like, okay, well, I feel stuck. I feel powerless. Don't know what to do. So I'm just going to try anything. Um, which I just think that's fascinating how my body's just giving this constant biofeedback, you know?
Yeah. And so this is the thing about the biofield anatomy, about the stabilizing statements, and about this work that I do is that once you understand when you get an ache or pain somewhere, what the message is, you can respond to the message much more readily. You're like, oh, my right shoulder is hurting because I keep saying yes when I mean no. I keep overextending myself, over accommodating, taking care of everybody else and not me, and I'm out of balance over here, and now my shoulder hurts, right? And so you're like, oh, take that as a sign, say
Yeah.
no next time you feel no,
Mm,
right?
I
And
love.
that, yeah, that's health, is being able to respond quickly to stressors, right? So that the more exquisitely attuned you are and the more you understand it, the faster you can respond. And that's what keeps someone healthy, is that kind of resilience.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love it. And I'm so curious because you did say before I hit record that, you guys, you understand human design, you understand everybody's human design in the company, the people that you work with. So instantly I'm like, well, have you started experimenting with this? If we talk about auras, like, have you started seeing any patterns? Like, do you ask patients for their human design and potentially see any patterns around that? Are you looking to build a successful human design or astrology business? Do you wish that you had your own chart tool on your website so you don't have to send people somewhere else to get it? BodyGraph.com provides all the resources you need to turn this vision into a reality. We use this incredible software in our business to provide charts and custom reading reports at the click of a button, generate leads, and bring in lots of passive revenue. BodyGraph.com has already helped coaches and entrepreneurs generate over $2.5 million in revenue. If you're ready to take your business seriously, start with a free trial and use the code Human Design Podcast to get 30% off for 6 months. Here's what you can do with BodyGraph.com. Embed stunning charts directly into your website, build personalized lead magnets to grow your email list, create and sell detailed reading reports, and even use their free website builder to get started fast. BodyGraph.com is the ultimate all-in-one platform for building your human design or astrology business. If you're ready to join the community of successful entrepreneurs, visit bodygraph.com and start building your dream business today. Follow the link in the show notes and use the code Human Design Podcast to get 30% off for 6 months.
I don't. At this point, I don't work with a lot of people one-on-one, but that would be truly useful. I mean, I think it would be an interesting study to determine if there's certain field similarities between certain types. I know that I'm mostly surrounded, I'm a generator, and I am very much a generative person. I've created 3 maps and 3 systems. Actually, I should tell you about the third map and third system
Yeah,
too.
let's do that.
Okay, so the third one is something that I co-created with these 2 Australian brothers named Isaac and Torald Corin. And I had set off with them on their Songwriters Journey program that they offer, where they were going to help me to co-write and record 2 songs just to help get me over the hump of being terrified of singing in front of other people.
Yeah,
And
wow,
so
love
many
it.
of us feel that way, right? Like afraid to, and a lot of people are afraid to speak in front of others. Like I can get up in front of thousands of people. I don't even get nervous. I'm just like, I got no problem talking to you, and don't ask me to sing, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's really important in life, as part of our experience with human life, is to overcome our fears. That if you have a big fear around something, that's telling you something that there's, and I've learned where there's fear, there's power.
So true.
So I was like, okay, that's big and scary, but I got to tackle this. I got to grab this bull by the horns. I got to wrestle it to the ground and overcome this fear. And very serendipitously met them. And when we had our first Zoom meeting together, we had an instant like simpatico knowing, like they are my brothers from some other time and place for sure. And so when we started working together, Isaac Torald has an exercise that he helps bring people like out of their head and into their body, and to really experience their body as the instrument. So a lot of people, they think about singing, it's like all up here, yeah, but really so much of our sound and the inflection and nuance of our voices really comes from our bodies. And so it was an exercise in getting in there. And in the process of doing that with him, I discovered that I had so many places in me that were collapsed and compressed. I felt like I was like a pipe organ that had, and all my pipes were like stuffed up, or the keys didn't work.
Mm.
And this process that he had of like finding these places and sounding into them and from them, right? Something that he would do with people a few times and then move on. Well, I really wanted to kick the can down the road and like not have to sing in them. So I was like, it's like this rope and pulley system. And every time I release one area, it goes to another and another and another. And we ended up like taking this complete wild detour that we're still on, never recorded the songs.
Wow.
And that was back in 2020. And
Wow.
what we ended up creating very unwittingly, because we did not set out to do this, and it was not a vision, it was not an intention, it was just like the three of us got together and somehow we remembered
Oh,
something that we've done before, and it just poured right out through us. And so what it is it's a series of 42 sounds so far that resonate in very specific areas of the body. And they're all like baby sounds. They're like primal sounds like wa, ma, pa, gu, gi, ga, da, fa. They're very simple root sounds, but they resonate in very specific areas. And they clean your pipes. So when you hang out and you sound wah into your tailbone from your tailbone, it opens up like the inside of you, something that might have been like wah. And when you add air, you clean it out. All of a sudden, you're like wah.
oh my
Just
God, I love it. I'm like, where's the list? I need to experiment with this.
so it's so fun. It's so silly, but it's so incredibly vitalizing that when we hang out and we make these sounds together and we practice like making them in the body, radiating from the body, sending them this way, sending them that way, you feel so alive and awake. And it strengthens your own voice, right? Metaphorically and physically. Because it's by our word we create our life, that we create our boundaries, that people respond to us. They respond more to our tone than what we say, right?
Yep.
So when you start like opening up all of these places inside, your tone becomes deeper, it becomes more resonant, it becomes more attractive to listen to. And so people like change their lives after they we do these workshops. They go and they set boundaries they weren't setting, they start speaking up for themselves in ways that they weren't, and then they just feel more vibrant and alive. So I would it would have to have a lot of payoff, honestly, sitting around making baby sounds with people, in order to be like, I'm doing this and I'm teaching you how to do this, because it's so amazing. So that system actually has 4 maps. It has 5 zones. You have one map with zones, and then 3 other maps with different sets of what we call tones and demitones. And that is a super useful practice. Like even something really simple like, oh, you have low thyroid. Well, these are the 2 sounds for the throat. And one sound is bow. And you can imagine that you're sending that sound like back away from, sending it back that way, and you go bow. And when you do that, you resonate your thyroid. Or you make this
Wow.
going sound ha, and you just go ha bo ha bo. And that is this literally energizing that gland with sound from the inside. And it's natural and it's free, right?
Wow.
Yeah. And then the stabilizing statements for this area are I express, because the imbalance in the biofield anatomy on the left side is I'm keeping my mouth shut. I'm putting up and shutting up. I'm not letting myself feel or express these emotions, right? So a lot of people end up with vertigo. It's a consequence of energy stuck here that isn't being expressed.
Wow.
A lot of people have vertigo, and that is a
Yeah,
big part of it.
that is
It-
crazy because I've heard, and especially recently, I hear a lot of people have vertigo.
well, part
I'm
of it too is the satellites and the 5G towers.
yeah, right.
That is going on as well. These satellites over our head beaming, these alleged satellites, I would say, beaming down uh, radiation onto our magnetic field can make people start to feel a little like this. But you're going to be more prone to that if you are suppressing expression, right? So the stabilizing statement on this side is I express, right? And I express. Now, the imbalance on this side where things pile up is when we're speaking, but we don't feel heard, right? And that's all in your tone. If you've got this story that you're speaking and nobody listens, you have to change your tone, right? You have to
You're
change.
blowing my mind right now. I'm trying so hard not to cut you off, and whoops, look, I did it.
Wait,
You
let me
finished,
just
and then
let's
so
finish
yeah.
this bit. Okay, so the statement on the right side is I am heard. I express, I am heard. And so when you have these two statements on either side that stabilize, then a center emerges. And the center for the throat is I rejoice. I express, I am heard, I rejoice. And it's just like that. And then the ha and the bo, and then understanding the imbalances. Like you put all that together and you have a very simple package to help bring greater health to your thyroid and your communication. You don't
Oh
need
my
it.
God. I just love it. And I'm also fascinated why we ended up talking about the throat because I absolutely wanted to ask you about the throat because it is my area that I'm fully aware it is my purpose. My voice is my purpose. You know, whether it's human design, the gene keys, my heart, my soul, I know this. I have got, congruence across the board on it. And it's also the area that I I don't experience chronic pain. I don't like I'm a very healthy person. I have no allergies. It's the one place in my body that it's been an ongoing thing. And when I was listening to you talk about this, I don't know, maybe it was the book, maybe it was a podcast, I'm not sure. You even referenced how, you know, if you were raised by a narcissist, that you potentially don't feel heard. Because I absolutely, that's my old story of that I just didn't feel heard. And for so many years, I didn't feel heard. And I've also noticed that in my work, when I am working, my tone's completely different. So if I'm interviewing or if I'm teaching or if I'm speaking on stage or whatever I'm doing, completely different tone to the tone that kind of walks down the street, if you know what I mean. So I'm so fascinated with this. I'm absolutely practicing those sounds and even the rejoice, like when you said, I rejoice, that I can feel that right in my heart, like, yes, that's it.
Yeah.
So powerful. I love
Yeah,
it.
it's so powerful and so simple, right? So
Yeah.
simple.
I'm
I'm
also
always looking for what is like simple and
yeah.
practical, and like tuning forks are great. They are. I love tuning forks. They've been training wheels for my mind in a way that's amazing. They're a super useful tool, and I love using them. But our word, our own voices, are free, available, and limitless in so many ways. In the ways that we can apply them to help us.
I love that. There's this thing in BG5, which is the business arm of human design, that says you basically get paid for the hanging gates in your undefined centers. And like you've got three hanging gates in your throat. And one of them is the voice of a leader. And I love that human design just really gives us this whole, it's not telling us anything we don't know, but it's just confirming that, okay, this is really a thing. The other thing I want to go back to, which I'm really curious about, because there was a big part of me a little while ago when light language started to appear on Instagram. To be honest, I was like, I'm not sure about that. This seems a bit. And then recently, I've been coming back around to it because, well, for many reasons, I've been going down the rabbit hole of activating your 12-strand DNA and all these sort of stuff. So, of course, there's lots of talk about frequency. And I wonder if all that work that you were doing with the brothers, like, do you think there's any connection between the sounds that you've come up with and maybe light language? Because that light language piece, I don't know, like it feels very, I don't know what the word is, but is there any connection between those two, do you think?
Well, like you, I'm the sort of person I hear something like, okay. I mean, I
Yes.
feel that way about tuning forks too, and I use them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm a
Yeah.
funny combination of like skeptical person with an open
Same.
mind. Yeah. Um, our work is very specific in that these particular sounds resonate in very specific areas, right? So we're not just like channeling some language that doesn't have isn't very anchored in the body. It's very anchored in the body. And I
Mm.
think when we things like light language also kind of speak to me like ascension or going to 5D or raising your vibration. Like there's this whole sort of like cosmic disembodied quality to that that eschews the beauty of 3D physicality, humanity, nowness. Do you know what I mean? Like
Oh,
this is
so
where
much.
the juice is. It's here and now. It's in the my coffee. I made it perfectly this morning. That sunset is beautiful. That bird song is lovely. What do I feel like preparing myself for another nice meal? How many people can I hug and care about today? Like this is it, people. Enjoy what you got. Like
Yeah.
we don't need to cosmic ourselves, right? That's
Yeah.
not the intention of this work. It's really to like get you in your body. And there are sounds that like they're baby sounds. Now, we've turned them into songs, like they're really simple little songs. Like one of our songs is Kugi Bifi Kia yeah, right? And you could hear that and be like, well, that's nothing. Like, what is that? But it's actually gu is the spine, gi is the nerves, b is your fascia, ki is your skin, I is your biofield, and yeah is your diaphragm, right? So when we do that, we are really embodied as body language. It's baby language. It's not, I wouldn't ever call it light
Yeah.
language. And because that whole moniker, and I don't want to offend anybody who digs it and sees the value in it. I'm sure there is. I'm sure, you know what I mean? But we all have different flavors that we're attracted to. And I don't tend to gravitate towards that sort of thing. So I haven't
Yeah.
really explored it or listened to it. You know, I'm
Yeah.
like, no.
Yeah, I love it and totally resonate. And even just hearing you sing that song, like the resonance, it gave me goosebumps, like the whole resonance of it. And you bring up such an important point and something that I know for years. I mean, in human design, I'm a line 3. So I've never understood, I'm a very spiritual person, but I've never understood the whole concept of, oh, I don't want to be on earth anymore. I just want to, I'm done with human. I'm like, I love being human. Like, this is epic. Um, and I think one of the things I've discovered over the decades that I've been doing this, but even more recently, is like the spiritual people that think it's not in the body, they're missing the point. Like the body is this, like there is not an equivalent to the human body out there. Like this is the thing. Like we are all driving the best car on the lot. And I think that if we want to go, the higher we want to go, consciousness wise, the more we have to learn to work with the body, because the body is the thing that is communicating how we get there, or if we get there, or all the things. So look, I totally agree with you. I think the body's so misunderstood at how powerful it is, especially this time in history when there's so many people saying we should upgrade our bodies with technology. I'm like, are you mental? Like we are better than any AI. So I totally agree with you.
Yeah. No, we really are. And unfortunately, many people have been programmed with self-loathing. And that's sort of a hidden background program that creates that. I just want it to end. And then when you have self-loathing, you're going to find ways to project it out onto the world around you. And you're going to make it about this politician or that story or this thing. But it's not. It's your own hidden self-loathing program that you're projecting. And, life is still full of beauty, wonder, amazement, pleasure, fun, funniness. Like, it's a great adventure and it's an incredible time to be alive. And to me, this realm is like a game. And can we play the game? Can we move through the levels, keep the health meter up, keep the wealth meter up, keep on slaying the demons and moving on, and not take it quite so seriously either.
Mm.
So play, have fun.
Yeah. And I
Play.
so think that that's actually exactly, I think that's also how people heal quickly. I think one of the things that I often get as feedback is people like, wow, you move through the hard stuff really quickly. And I like, because yeah, when I didn't, I was taking myself and my life way too seriously. When I stopped taking things so seriously, then it is much easier to move through whatever is going on, because you can't run away from it. There's only one way, and that's through the middle of it.
Yeah. And you
Mm.
can't get rid of it. You can't like lobotomize your inner child. You can't lop off these parts of yourself. You can't get rid of anything. Like, you've been indelibly impressed by life and there's no getting rid of it. But what you can do is alchemize it, digest it, turn it, surrender it to the holy fire and let it burn into creative energy within you. And it only hurts for a moment, that transmutation process of touching the pain, feeling the pain, and then just integrating it and expressing it and move on. The healing doesn't have to be this like big, heavy, scary, oh, I don't want to feel the pain. You already felt it once and you were littler. Like, get over yourself. Like,
Yeah.
feel it, move on. And it's not that big of a deal. It's like, when you're a kid and you're like, we're in a playground and the slide seemed really big. And then you go back as an adult and you're like, that slide is tiny. That's what it is with that trauma that's hanging out back in there. It's not as big as you think it is. It's not as
Mm.
bad or as scary. And the feelings you're trying to not feel, once you stop resisting them and let them move through, they're waves. They just move through. And we
Yeah.
don't need to turn this on into resistance and fear and add all that to it. Yeah, it's
Mm.
uncomfortable. I mean, part of why I can sit here and be 56 years old and be really healthy and really like vital. I don't have any pain. I did have some pain in my hip, but I think I straightened it out. Like, it's not like I don't get things. Like, I
Yep.
started to get menopause, but I'm a really determined problem solver, and I don't like living with problems. I don't like living with pain. I don't like living with any kind of problem. And so that, I think that's what has made me such a good practitioner, is that I'm first and foremost a resourceful and creative problem solver. Right? That's
Mm.
what all these maps and systems are all about. Like, how do we solve this problem? How do we solve that problem? And I make use of all of them, and they all help to keep me resilient, present, interested, vital, alive, playful. And
Yeah.
I think that's the end game of healing, is like, you play more.
Yeah.
It's not some lofty big spiritual thing. It's like, actually it makes you more playful.
Yeah. Exactly. And the crazy thing is playfulness, if we think about it on the consciousness scale, is way up the consciousness scale. It's that we get stuck in the heaviness. And one of the things I think that, like, I see in our world right now, which is kind of frustrating, is that we've turned our shadow and our limiting beliefs and our blocks and our trauma and our healing into this big freaking project. And at the end of the day, you're not healing it, you're using it to keep yourself in that loop, if you like. And I feel like this is where people need to start to actually, exactly what you just said, like, just run into the fire, deal with it, and then move on. Focus on life. Focus on, as you say, vitality. Focus on, the potential of what you could experience in this lifetime.
Right. And honestly, I think it's simpler than people realize. Like,
Yeah.
what does it say? Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. I mean, it's it's really not any kind of big deal. It's just you being more present and you enjoying your life more. It's you being more able to suck the marrow out of now, because it's all you've got, right?
Yep.
That is really where you're, the other side of the healing, the victim story, the this and that, is simply enjoying life more.
Yeah. And do you actually find, like, that's makes me curious, and I know you said you don't really work with people like one on one so much anymore, but did you find that, you know, joy was something that wasn't on your table. Like these were people that were potentially stuck in these lower frequencies. And because I often feel like, I know we can go off on some sort of pilgrimage, or we can go and do something that has nothing to do with what we would know as a healing modality or a personal development or spiritual development modality, and then we can completely transform. And I often wonder, like, we're just doing that because we're doing it through the heart. We're having fun, we're adventuring, we're discovering who we really are. So I wonder, in your work, when you were working with people one-on-one, was it a lot of that dense, lower energy? And as you maybe tuned something in their biofield that actually helped them to feel more joy, and as they felt more joy, then they could move these things through?
Yeah, I think I use a slightly different language. I don't use the scale of lower and higher when it comes to emotions, because I think that what that does, especially like when you put something like shame and you're like, oh, it's such a low vibration, then people will avoid it. They're like, oh, that's low vibe and I don't want to feel
True.
shame. But we need to feel shame, right? Like if I eat this whole pint of ice cream, I'm going to be ashamed of myself.
Yeah.
So, like, shame stops you from doing shameful things.
Mm.
So, really, all of our emotions are necessary and valid. I just worked with the last podcast I did at the end. He was complaining that he had pain in his neck. And so I tuned it and I was like, you are holding back rage, like this like Hulk smash kind of rage behind a facade of a guy who's like nice and cool and has this cool spiritual podcast. But your upbringing generated all of this in you and also told you to suppress it. And so all of that rage that you are like holding back is sitting and causing pain on the back of your neck, right? So that's a judgment about an emotion, that it's like I'm not allowed to feel that, right?
Mm.
Jealousy. I remember saying once to a woman who called herself a shamanic counselor, and I was saying about how I didn't want to let myself feel jealous. And she's like, oh, that's interesting. Why would you stop yourself from feeling any of your emotions? And I was like, good question. Right? So I think that our feelings, just like your fingertips will tell you not to touch that because you'll get burned, our emotional feelings protect us in the same way and help guide us into right behavior. Right? I used to have a 220-pound English Mastiff, and you could leave him home all day with like a steak on the table and he wouldn't touch it because he had been shamed once and he did not like that feeling. And he was like, I'm not going to do anything shameful. And so it's that unwillingness to feel the shame that creates a narcissist in the first place.
True.
So if you're a narcissist and you're avoiding shame, how different are you from a spiritual bypasser who's like, oh, that's too low vibe for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we don't, in my work, we don't rank anything higher or lower. There's dense, heavy, incoherent emotions. There's stuck emotions. There's emotions that we're afraid of, right? There's emotions that are coherent emotions that actually support order in our system: gratitude, love, appreciation, right? All of those, when you're in love and gratitude, you become more coherent, and that coherence engenders a kind of expansion, right?
Mm.
So as we heal and as we relax and as we become more coherent and as we alchemize these heavy undigested emotions that were like the emotional baggage that was weighing us down, our shadow side, we don't get rid of them. We pull them in. We take in that part of our inner child and we draw them close and we love them and we integrate. We tell them that that feeling is okay and valid. It's not that it's bad or low vibe or anything. It's like your body generated that at that time for a reason and it's okay. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the okayness of all of our feelings. And
Mm.
then we feel them and then we digest them. That energy is no longer held frozen in that pattern. It's been released and integrated. So we don't get rid of anything heavy. We integrate it, we digest it, we alchemize it, we turn it back into flowing light, right?
Mm.
Yeah. And
Mm.
that flowing light is intrinsically joyful.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
Love it.
And I think it's fascinating as well, just knowing your design. I think on one of the podcasts I heard you say that the stabilizing statement for the solar plexus has been incredibly powerful for you. And I think that's fascinating given that you're an emotional authority. Um, I feel like, again, this emotional authority from a human design perspective, we're in the process of going through what's called the solar plexus mutation, which is really about helping people to really a lot of what you've just spoken about, go from this place of being reactionary with their emotions, at the mercy of their emotions, kind of letting emotions just kind of either leak out or be repressed. And instead, we are sort of changing into these versions that we will be driven by these feelings. They will be the things that are constantly giving us feedback, effectively, not just in the third dimension, but all these other energies and dimensions that we can access. So, yeah, I think that it's so important that we don't make them good, bad, right, or wrong. I totally agree. Um, I'm curious about the actual, because I'm a line 3, I'm really curious about the experience. Like, when you've got someone on the table, what does it feel like as you are going around their biofield? Do you start on the out and you're tuning with the fork, and then you just you've hit a road bump? Like, how does that actually feel?
Yeah, it's a really interesting sensation. And it's actually kind of fun to teach people, like somebody who's never held a fork, and you show them how to activate it and you show them how to move it through the field, and they move it through, and then they hit a place, a sticky spot, uh an area where there's feels like magnetic density, and the fork stops and it sticks there and you're like, what? Like, it doesn't want to move. It's such a weird, of course you can override it, but if you're going slow and being sensitive, you feel this like magnetic, as if you're bumping up against stuff. So if you're combing through the field with a weighted fork, you feel it in your fingertips. You can all of a sudden, you're like, oh, wait, there's like a phase shift there. There's some kind of state change, like it was brrr, and then all of a sudden here it's like brrr, like, right? So
Wow.
so the body is giving off waves, and we have standing waves within the bubble. It's sort of like our own ionosphere. We have a plasma membrane that creates the toroid of our magnetic field. And so you can find the edge of the field.
Wow.
When my kids were little, they were like 6 and 9, and I hadn't started teaching this yet. I started teaching it in 2010, but I started in 1996. So I spent 14 years doing it on other people before I ever experienced it myself. But at one point, I had really bad mid back pain, and I taught my sons how to do this. And they were like, Mom, it's so subtle. And I was like, understand subtleties, and women will love you.
Yes.
And so they did. They were able to find it. And I was like, okay. So my son Cassidy was 6, and I said, Cassidy, how do you know when you've hit something in the field or at the edge of the field? And he said, because the fork gets more vibrating.
Ooh, love it.
Right? Really simple. The fork gets more vibrating. So in this model, the biofield is your memories. Your memories are held in standing waves in the field around you in a very specific thing. This is what the biofield anatomy map is all about. So we can find very specific memories in very specific areas of your field. So let's just say off my left shoulder, like if I had something really sad happen about 10 years ago, that memory is going to be right there. And I'm going to
Yeah,
be able to
wow.
feel it. And I'd be like, oh, this is a really sad memory from 10 years ago. And so a skilled practitioner or a deeply intuitive practitioner, or just somebody who's experienced with this, because you didn't really need to be intuitive, because it's not intuitive. It's a language. And it, this vibration means this, or this sound in the overtone means that, right? So I've been studying this for almost 30 years, and so I'm extremely fluent in vibration. I can listen to anyone's signal and I can tell them endless things about themselves, because it's all encoded in this language that's totally learnable. Just like, if you were to go to Mongolia, after a little while, you'd be like, that sound means that. And that's the way it is in the tuning forks. We're like, oh, that sound means anger. That sound means any number of things, that there's a twist in that ankle. Like you can
Wow.
just really simply, like if there's a break in a bone and you just raise a tuning fork above it, you can hear the break in the vibration, because the break
Wow.
is in the signal and it comes through there.
Oh my God. I'm like, I need to find a practitioner because I want to do my throat, like I want to find out what I don't already know. That sounds so exciting. And you have trained people all over the world, haven't you?
Yeah, all over the world.
That's a totally selfish question. I live in Byron Bay, so the odds of someone being here that does it is pretty good.
No, there are some people in Byron Bay. There definitely are. Just look Biofield Tuning Australia, and
Yeah.
you'll find people. Yeah,
Amazing.
I
I
was
love it.
actually in Gold Coast teaching back in like 2018. I taught a class there. So
Amazing. I love
yeah,
it. I'll have to absolutely look it up. Before I let you go, I think one of the things that we do talk about a lot in my community is this burnout. We're so conditioned to think that we have to hustle and force, and that we have to actually go out and get. Um, and one of the things I talk a lot about is it's not true. It's actually about coming back to our authentic frequency. I kind of talk about we're born with this original frequency that our potentially our human design will give us the roadmap of, but then we have all the layers of the conditioning and life and experiences and everything that kind of blurs that frequency. And my community does talk a lot about burnout. So how can we help, either heal ourselves from burnout, working with sound in the biofield, and like what other wisdom, like what do we need to know about trying to, other than stop doing it, what else do we need to know with our biofield to maybe release, heal, move on from that?
yeah. Well, burnout comes from overwork, and overwork is an addiction. And for me, as somebody who's been addicted to various things, the hardest thing that I've ever given up is overwork.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you have to understand that it is an addiction.
I get
It's
it.
a permissible addiction, because you're not leaving a trail of wine bottles behind you, but you are addicted to just the go, 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 go. And that is a trauma response. And then we're programmed in school, to like go, 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 and then bring home your homework and do sports. Right? There's just endless programming that gets you on this hamster wheel continuously. And you're following suit. You're being a good girl. You're being a good guy. If you're killing yourself doing this. I brought myself to complete and utter burnt toast status, not once but twice in my
Mm.
life. Like really like burned it all the way to the very end.
Yeah.
And that was the mid back pain that I needed my sons to work on, was that I was running on adrenaline. And I'm a super achiever. I didn't just work double time. Like I worked triple time. Like I was a mother. I went to school full time. I saw clients. I like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna out overwork all of you by orders of magnitude.
I get you, sister. I absolutely get you. And I'm thinking most people listening to this do.
Yeah. And so I think part of it comes from a low self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
That's always at the heart of it. I think that guilt and shame, that we have guilt and shame that drive us to be doing this all the time. But I did come up with a solution actually that changed my life, and has, we've helped many, many people. This is sort of a core practice in biofield tuning. It's called the adrenal rhythm reset. And because what happens when you burn out your adrenals, even if you go see a naturopath, they're still going to push a whole bunch of expensive pills across the desk at you. Some of
Yeah.
them are work and are good. But from an electric health vibrational medicine perspective, your adrenal rhythm is running too high and too fast. Okay. So that saying, your frequency attracts your experience, right? Okay, that's true to a degree, but what's more true is that your frequency is your experience.
Yes.
If you are all like over amped and tired, that's your experience. Wherever you go, gets what you're going to be feeling. So if you want to change your experience, you have to change your vibe.
Yeah.
You can't think like, oh, when I get this done, or when I get that done, or when this happens, then I'll have the ah. No, you have to have the ah first, and then your life will change. And the choices that you make and the accommodations that you do, you will change, because your inner rhythm will be different. And so very simply, it is a practice where, imagining that your adrenals, which sit on your kidneys, are all like, and your life is like, and then you're like alternating with this, and then this, right? That burnout, that low, I'm tired and wired kind of
Yep.
feeling.
Hit the wall. Yep. But can't sleep. Totally remember that.
Right? And so what we do is we come in with a tuning fork and we just connect to the field of the adrenals from beginning, from conception on. Because a lot of us, I know my mom was bombed out of her house in Belfast during World War II
Wow.
twice because her
God.
husband worked at the shipyard that was building ships for the British Navy. And so twice, right? So for me, like as a little tiny egg in my mom, I'm subjected to some real stress. And then
Yeah.
it's in my mom's field too, right? And so I grow up and my mom's stress and then that gets handed down to me. And so what did my mom do? She was a martyr who burned herself out, taking care of everybody else. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. Like, and then for me, women's lib, like, oh, I'm going to have a job and I'm going to do all the things at home too, right? And then I
Yeah.
got to go to school full time as well. Like, right. So I took what my mom's stress and like took it to the whole next level. So my adrenal rhythm from conception is been oriented this way
Yeah.
towards going into stress and burnout. So we just start, we pick one side. Usually the left is where I start, but you can start on either side. And I'll just listen to the story, to the song of the adrenal through its whole life. And then when you get close to it, then you're reflecting, and it's the tuning fork is allowing it to hear itself and hear
Mm.
its own rhythm. So the tuning fork literally allows the adrenal to become self-aware, recognize that its rhythm is off. And because I'm using a coherence, like a metronome, it starts to change its rhythm and starts to settle down. And it's very interesting because about 85% of people, what it'll do is it'll just slowly ratchet down. But in
Yep.
a smaller percentage of people, it'll like stay high, stay high, stay high. And then all of a sudden it'll go whoop and it'll drop. And they'll like maybe have a little spasm or something. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Wow.
Go through and do the other side. And so I created this. I had my first apprentice do it on me, and it completely changed my life. It completely and utterly changed my life, like almost immediately. That I went from seeing like 25 people a week and, really like heavy burnout, major mid back pain, like every day. This was after, it was mild when my kids were little, but at this stage, it was really bad. And mid back pain went away, stopped seeing individuals, started working with groups, started changing my whole perspective around money and circumstance. Like my whole life changed because I changed the rhythm that
Mm.
was driving me inside. And I got smoother, I got more open, I got groovier, and my life reflected that. So I
Wow.
would suggest for people who are burnout, like, yes, you can try to do this yourself. I have a recording. I have 3 1-hour sessions, but and that's only like $40. But it's better to do a one-on-one with somebody and do an adrenal reset series because I've seen people's lives change, their health change like over and over and over again with this. So it's like you not only do you get your life back, your energy back, but you come out with different boundaries and different expectations of yourself. And then since then, I've never even gotten close to driving myself to that point again. So
Yeah. Wow.
yeah, it's a
That is
very
fantastic. And like my mum, she was an ego projector. So she pushed herself so hard. Um, and I'm like, yeah, that is what I have done for so much of my life. Like I don't do it now, but I'm fascinated because I want to now go and have a session because I reckon there is still an echo of that. Because even when, I've completely changed my morning and nighttime routines to do nothing. Yes, I'll meditate, but I even had to take out, deliberately meditating and journaling and all of those other things because they just become, just pressures, things that I had to get done. But yeah, that is fascinating. I'm absolutely going to have to go check that out.
yeah, yeah. And I think that the more that you start to look at life through this electric, vibrational, rhythmic lens in your health, like it just gets easier.
Yeah.
right? It just gets easier. It's like I'm either like groovy and in tune and everything is coherent and orderly and harmonious, right? And it doesn't matter what hormones you're producing or oxytocin or that none of that chemistry language means anything. It's really about you are music. Are your
Yeah.
tones flat? Are they sharp? Is that string broken? Is that pipe clogged? Right? And you start reconstructing yourself as an instrument that is in tune, where you're not trying to ascend or go higher, right? Where you want to
Yep.
honor those low notes too. You know what I mean? It's all good. It's just either out of tune or in tune. It's coherent or incoherent, and the clearer your signal and the more vital your flow, your body just fixes itself. That's what it's designed to do.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that. And I think that's the thing that we miss, even in the wellness industry, is it's all already here. It's all already here. And we go, and I mean, I'm self-confessed, I'm well into like longevity and vitality and definitely take supplements. However, I feel like my gut, my intuition is always saying, like, you don't need this shit, right? Like, you just have to, trust yourself and get, if I was a car, then I would make sure that I was performing at the best. I also have a dressage horse. What do? I make sure he has everything he needs to do the best job he can do. So it's just the same for us. I think it's just that old conditioning, that old story we need to let go of, that we're not, we're told we're not powerful. We're told we are, replaceable and dispensable. And especially now AI is coming in, that, we need this tech upgrade. And I'm like, we really don't. We really don't. So I love the idea that when we tune our biofield, what actually makes us who we are, then the body can do the best job it can possibly do.
Yeah. Yeah,
I love it.
definitely.
So good. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. I would love you to share with my audience how they can go check out the book, check out the website, the programs, all the things. We will put everything in the show notes, but if you could just direct them where to go, that would be great.
Sure. Okay, so biofieldtuning.com, and my books and everything are there. They're also on Amazon, but we'd rather you bought them from us, not Amazon.
Yes.
I make
Yes.
my own line of high quality American made tuning forks. And I have a YouTube channel. So, for people who like to learn via video, I've got lots of free tunings, the Sonic Sunday service on YouTube. Also, singthebodyelectric.com. We're going to have a 5-week course coming up in that. So you can learn about that there. The Stabilizing Statements is a course that's underway right now. So by the time this airs, that will probably be, kind of past, but the book will be coming out later this year, the book and system of the stabilizing
Wow.
statement. So you'll have that as well. So yeah, lots of things to discover, when you kind of come this way around voice, sound, the biofield, ether, it's endlessly fascinating, right? As you were speaking to before, Emma, this is not a boring topic, and it's fun to explore.
So good. Well, thank you so much for being here with me. And I feel like we just kind of, skirted around the edges because there's so much, but it's been fantastic to have you here. So thank you so much for spending some time with me.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me.
And thanks everyone for being here. I trust you got what you needed from today's episode, and I so look forward to having you on the next one. Bye for now.